Hey friends, I'm Bill Staley with the Diocese of Nashville in the Youth and Young Adult Ministry Department. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the original DM, Divine Mercy. This Sunday is Divine Mercy Sunday. So what does that mean? Let's go back to the 1930s. There was a saint who was just a nun, and her mother superior, who was the head of the religious order, said she was nothing to get excited about. She had a lot of illness, and her name was Saint Faustina Kowalska. She lived in Poland, and we all know what happened to Poland in the 1940s. Beginning in the 1930s, Germany and Hitler began to take over most of Eastern Europe, and so she was in her convent, and she started to have these images of Jesus speaking to her. And if you go on Amazon, you can check out her diary, the Diary of Saint Faustina, and it has all the writings where Jesus would appear to her and speak to her. Right? And he wanted her to tell the world of his divine mercy, right? And so St. Faustina was a good girl and she wrote all this stuff down. But then at one point when Jesus appeared to her, he said, St. Faustina, I want you to have a painting made of what you're seeing, right? And so St. Faustina got with a painter through the church and through her local bishop, and they painted a version of this image. This is the Divine Mercy image, and I love this image. There's so much in it that I could talk for hours, but I only have a couple minutes today. And so this image was initially created, but then it was suppressed during the war, and during the 50s and 60s, the church really didn't recognize it because they were like, who is this lady? What did she really say? And then when St. John Paul II was elected Pope in 1978, he began an official review of the Vatican documents, and St. Faustina was canonized, made a saint, and she was the first saint of the third millennium in the year 2000. And so from that point forward, between St. John Paul II and St. Faustina, we have the Divine Mercy devotion through the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, through this image that you can find in most of your homes. If you don't have one yet, I highly encourage you to get one. But St. John Paul II, actually, when he was working at a chemical factory during the war, he would pray at the convent that St. Faustina was at. So it was kind of neat that those two saints intersected and didn't even really know each other, but they were probably praying together at the same time. St. John Paul II also instituted that the first Sunday after Easter would become known as Divine Mercy Sunday, because after Easter, the resurrection of Christ, Christ comes to us and reminds us of his divine mercy, his ultimate, endless, unfathomable forgiveness and mercy upon us, right? And so here in this image, you see Jesus. A couple things to quickly point out. You have the blood and water which gushed forth from his side, right? And those are the light rays emitting, the red one and the bluish white one, right? The blood and water which gushed forth. When we hear in the story of the crucifixion, the soldier stabbed Jesus in the side, right? But Jesus, having been crucified, and you can see his wounds, right? You can see his wounds, but what's he doing? He's pointing to his divine mercy, and he's blessing us still. So he's not coming back for vengeance. He's coming to keep blessing us and to share his mercy with us. And we see in his feet, even though his feet are pierced and hurting, he's still walking towards us, which is just so fantastic. And at the bottom, Jesus, I trust in you. That's what Jesus wanted written at the bottom of this painting. So there's so much more we can unpack there, but that's just a little tidbit on Divine Mercy. And when you pray the chaplet, it's a wonderful prayer. It takes 5 minutes. You can Google Chaplet of Divine Mercy, and you use your rosary beads, and you just, instead of Hail Marys, you say, for the sake of his sorrowful passion, have mercy on us and on the whole world. The Divine Mercy is a devotion that I hope all of you will adopt. Set alarms on your phones to pray during the 3 o'clock hour. That's the hour that Jesus was crucified. And it's so beautiful to see the Old Testament fulfilled in the New Testament. When in the Old Testament, when the sacrifice was made in the temple, they would have to wash out the blood, and they would have troughs because the Jewish people were very clean people according to Levitical law. And they would take water and wash the blood out of the trough, and it would shoot out the side of the temple, and so blood and water would gush out the side of the temple. And who do we have but Jesus as the new temple, the temple that was raised in 3 days, and blood and water coming out of his side as the sacrifice. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Divine Mercy Sunday. May God bless you all. And just remember, God's mercy is infinite, endless, and we just have to turn to it. Turn your hearts to it, and just dive on in. It's an ocean of mercy, and it's something that everybody, any Christian, even the biggest sinner, should turn to and find relief in his ultimate loving embrace.